Hi, welcome to our Incisive Edge webinar, Critical SEO Ranking Factors, 5 Pillars to Ensure You're on Top of. My name's Tom Roach and I'm responsible for running our marketing here at Incisive Edge. We are a marketing strategy agency who help businesses that need to unlock growth and scale quickly. That might be for exit, it might be for new investment, or it might be just to meet some ambitious internal targets that your organization could have. We use marketing strategy and in particular the most powerful inbound methods like SEO to help our customers achieve their goals. Now in the webinar today, I'm going to be focusing on the 5 pillars which we always pay careful attention to when we begin a new SEO engagement. These 5 critical areas have helped us to push multiple clients into the top ranking spots across a variety of industries. We produced the content today using the experience of our in-house data scientist and head of SEO, that's AD Fairs, and we want to continue to provide free advice and guidance to our network throughout 2023 as we strive to demystify digital marketing. As far as we're concerned, there's nothing worse than asking a simple question about marketing and receiving a spool of technical jargon back in exchange. The objective of our free content is to reduce those conversations, provide a grounding in these kind of important subjects, and give up some useful and actionable tips which our network can put into place to get a head start on the competition. So with all of that said, now I'm going to take you through our 5 pillars to SEO success. So I'm going to begin by just asking the question, what is the most critical SEO ranking factor? Now, our head of SEO was very clear with me on this one. It's impossible to give a cast iron response to that question without knowing a few of the particulars about the website in question. The reason for that is that there's just so many moving pieces and various elements to a website which can be extremely damaging to SEO performance if they're ignored, and likewise any website can be off to a great start in a number of other ways as well that you just don't know about without kind of getting to grips and looking at the site in question. Along with that, every new site is going to have low-hanging fruit and opportunities to drastically increase ranking by kind of picking off the right areas first. So the way that today I wanted to answer that question is just by checking off each of our key SEO areas, those 5 pillars, and giving you some practical guidance on each one that could be key to maybe bumping your business up the site rankings a little bit. Today we're going to cover domain authority to begin with. That's a concept that you really want to be familiar with in order to objectively measure the impact that your SEO work is having. From there we're going to get stuck into metadata, a topic that was really big when I first started working in SEO a lot of years ago, but has actually changed quite a bit and maybe now is important for some reasons that you might not expect. From there we'll move into creating winning content that reads well for humans but also kind of appeals to the search engines in the way that you need it to. Next up will be UX and the impact that that can have on your website, followed by backlinks, something that I think most small marketing teams will be really used to now, kind of dealing with requests for backlinks or maybe choosing their own targets for collecting backlinks. We'll touch on all of that. And finally, we're going to talk about mobile and why mobile maybe matters a little bit more than you think it does when it comes to SEO. So within that mix that I've just talked about, we're really confident that you're going to find something that you're looking for, something that can just help maybe cherry pick some of that low-hanging fruit and help your site take a step up. To go along with the webinar, we also have an Incisive Edge e-guide which I put together. It's very similar content to this. It's also ungated, so both for the webinar and for the guide you're not going to be kind of spammed for the rest of your life if you download or interact with this content. It's just part of our commitment to kind of demystifying the marketing terms a little bit and creating easier conversations for the kind of organizations that are often our customers. So if you're interested in that, click the link in the description here and gain access to that written copy of the recommendations we're going to be talking about today. First, domain authority. Now, before diving into the various ways you can improve your site's SEO, I wanted to provide you with a measure of the work that you're doing, something which can show you the broader impact of your work to increase a site's SEO. Domain authority is a score given by search engines to your website, which illustrates the quality of your website in the eyes of those search engines. Now, most commonly it's a score out of 100, and it typically won't change too much over a period of months. So that means that when you do get it moving as a marketer, you know that what you're doing is going to have a material impact on your results. You can check your domain authority using a free tool like Moz, for example, or even paid services will also provide their own kind of algorithm that will look at and provide you a domain authority score. These are never an exact match to, for example, Google's ranking of your site, but they are very closely aligned, and it's been proven across a number of websites that there's a correlation there. So although it's not an exact match, what I like to do is I choose one. So previously when I was in-house I used Moz, now I'm using SEMrush, and I would just track that domain authority score over a period of time. There are several factors that can boost domain authority. Some of those are out of your immediate control, like website traffic volumes, for example, search traffic volumes as well for the kind of keywords that you want to rank for. And according to some, even ad spend with a particular platform can influence your authority score in the eyes of that platform. But the good news is there are also a number of factors which are well within your control, and they can actually boost your domain authority plus your rankings. Those are the subjects which we've chosen today, and they're all areas, within your control yourself that you can use to boost your SEO performance. First up, we have metadata. Now, metadata was one of the first things which SEO staff, agencies, and training courses dealt with 10 or 20 years ago. In its first form, it provided search engines with a view of what the website owner wanted to focus their content to rank for. So it was literally like a dialog box that you could populate and tell the search engines what you were trying to rank for. Now that sounds great, but nowadays it plays much less of a role in the actual ranking of your content, but it still has a hugely important job to do in the overall SEO process. Why is that? Well, the answer is perhaps a little bit plainer than you might have expected. It's also easier to wrap your head around too. The function of metadata now is all about your listing within the search engine results page. That's a SERP in kind of SEO lingo. The meta title and the meta description form the text which lure your viewers into the website. So it's actually the physical entry on that search engine results page that the viewer is going to see and is going to make them kind of make that decision whether to click through or not. That means that it needs to be both relevant and compelling. The advice that I like to give when it comes to metadata is to have an advertising mentality. And what I mean by that is, rather than treating that metadata as kind of a part of your website, really think about it in context and treat it as an advert within the search engine results page. The text is ultimately one of the most important factors that's going to drive organic site traffic up. Don't miss your opportunity here to convert users. We're going to spend a lot of energy talking about these things later in the podcast or webinar, making sure that your website appears high up in the search rankings. So the importance of pushing people to take that final step and click can't be overestimated. Now, it's time to talk about the meat and bones of search engine optimization. Second on our list today is creating winning content that works for people and for search engines. Now, you might think that this one is probably simple, write the best possible response or answer to the terms or question that you're trying to rank for. But the reality is that it's a little bit more detail than that. It's kind of a couple of hoops that we've got to jump through in order for the search engines to see what we have to say and to rank us. So first of all, search engines are looking at a variety of different factors when it comes to content. They're going to consider length, they're going to consider headings, they're going to consider the kind of wording and terminology that you use in the article, and they're even going to look at some of the content within areas of your site that aren't actually on this page. So in order to rank for a specific page on a specific term, it's also going to consider other pages on your website as well. And the reason that it's doing that is it's looking for the most relevant answer, right? So it's looking for a site that is credible in a particular subject area. At the moment, content's a subject that's really high on lots of people's agenda. That's thanks to the outrageous acceleration that we're seeing of kind of AI generated content on the web that's recently been sent into overdrive by ChatGPT. Although ChatGPT is certainly the most powerful tool that we've seen kind of hit the mainstream and that's generating a lot of kind of conversation, particularly on platforms like LinkedIn, AI generated copy, specifically for SEO, has been kind of on the scene for some time. Search engines have had time, therefore, to kind of ensure that vanilla content that's generated by AI, and bear in mind that previously it wasn't as high a standard as ChatGPT, that it can be identified and penalized by their algorithms. So currently there's still a human element required by writers in order to rank. I think that human element is going to continue to vary as we see AI tech kind of develop and evolve in the years to come. The interesting thing is the flip side of this is that first Google and then social media platforms have kind of whipped up an enormous demand for content, which at times kind of extends beyond what's useful and into possibly the obscure or the irrelevant, just for the sake of generating content. It's possible that ChatGPT and the other AI copy tools that are spinning out of this and were around before as well, they could be the development that kind of reins in that endless, like bottomless hole for content, with content production now just being possible for anyone who has a ChatGPT login. There's no requirement to pay for those services, particularly at the moment. Google and other search engines are going to need to tighten up their algorithms further if they want to sift through that kind of waffle or find the meaningful value add and different content which they've historically kind of valued in their algorithms. What we've also seen is that long form content has been shrinking in importance along with word count when it comes to rankings. That's happened probably for over a decade. It's possible or even likely that that's going to continue as the emphasis is placed on kind of quality overwhelming or outweighing quantity in this new world of AI generated content. The bottom line when it comes to content is this: search engines want to deliver the answer to the user's question. It's really that simple. They want to match as closely as possible to what the user is searching for, and they want to do it in a way that provides the user with the most positive experience available, so that user is going to keep coming back to the same platform, their platform, to search again. This is why we've seen the rise of video content come so steeply into the frame recently. So take Google as an example. They want to provide people with the right form of content for their own individual preferences. So if people are visual, here's a tailored response in video. If they prefer to read, here's an article on the topic that you're searching for. Even better if they can provide a drop-down snippet, as they often do, so that the user doesn't even need to leave the search platform in order to get the response that they want. One of the things we wanted to do today was provide kind of a top tip in order for your content to present in that kind of snippet format, and we've got a couple of things that you can do in order to achieve that. First, take a look at the question you're answering in the search engine. Look at the SERP and look at the length of the answers which present in that kind of snippet format. If there are no answers presenting in a snippet, then go for a related search term, similar length, similar kind of industry or field, and find what the responses are looking at in terms of length there. Match a similar word count in your snippet response. So if you're seeing kind of 2 or 3 lines appear in that snippet format, then you want to be answering the question that you're trying to rank for in 2 or 3 lines as well. Add that snippet directly beneath a H2 heading in your copy, and provide, exactly the same format, not exactly the same word count perhaps, but you want to be very similar in terms of length directly beneath that H2 heading. If you do those things, you're going to be giving yourself a great chance to present in snippet format on that search engine. Finally, on content, the main thing we always try to stress is write for humans, not for machines. Adhere to those basic principles that the search engines are looking for, but don't go overboard. Just do those things to stand yourself in good stead for ranking and write for people. And if you do that, I think you're going to have really positive results with your content. Next up is UX and its impact on your site and how your site will rank. User experience, or UX, is not something which immediately comes into most people's minds when they think of SEO, but there are a few ways which it will actually influence the ranking of your site. The first and the most obvious one is site speed. Not only is that really irritating for users on your site to come in and experience a really poor load time, but search engines actually look really closely at site speed as well, and it's one of the first things which you should pay attention to when you review your website. There are several ways that you can check site speed, and it should be one of the key metrics that you look at within any technical audit. It doesn't have to be a paid for service. There are free tools, and if you'd like to know more about those free tools and where you can get access to them, I'd really encourage you to look at the e-guide that I mentioned earlier in the description below. The next area of UX which will impact your ranking is easily visible to you, but it's a little harder to improve. Looking at metrics like bounce rate, pages per session, and session duration for an indication of your site engagement and whether it's going up or down is critical. The engagement with your site will in part influence your domain authority, and with it the likelihood that your site will rank highly. Search engines want to see that your website is credible and it's trustworthy, and that people are really, getting into the meat and bones of your content, enjoying what they're reading and sticking around. Now, you don't need a bounce rate of 0, you don't need people to stay on your site and never leave, but you do need to know that in the space that you operate in, your metrics are solid, and hopefully your metrics are improving, and with them your domain authority is improving as well, to see that increase in your site ranking over time. Keep a close eye on these metrics and make calculated changes to move the needle in the right direction for your business. That could be our webinar all on its own, and maybe it will be in the future, but there's a few things that are pretty easy to look at when you're trying to increase these metrics. Your site navigation, your page titles, and how easy is it to find a particular piece of content on a product or service that you offer. Something that's a really worthwhile exercise that's quite often overlooked or perhaps disregarded a little bit within an organization is user testing. Take ideally an industry expert or just someone within your industry, get them to use your website and see how they engage with it. See if they can find information. Maybe give them a task, find information about a particular product or service from the homepage. Try and convert and contact us, whatever it might be. Go through that testing, do it with people inside, outside your organization, and really see what the impact is. The way that I always operate with a website is I'll choose one of those key metrics that I described earlier. Perhaps one is a little bit further off from where I would like it to be versus the others. Perhaps one is more important for the activities that we're going through at the moment. Devise a hypothesis for a way that you could improve that. So, perhaps it's finding information on a specific product. The hypothesis is if we change the menu structure, it's going to be easier for people to find that information. And then look at the KPI associated to that. So whether it's session duration, whether it's hits on a particular page from the homepage, whatever it might be, and judge whether what you've done has been successful or not. And if you're constantly kind of going through a process of improving those metrics with those little experiments perhaps, you're going to see a real improvement in your UX over time. Now, there's actually agencies and organizations that do what's called conversion rate optimization full time. This is something that can go into far more detail than I'm talking about right now. But if you're a kind of a small team, small in-house team who are looking to just implement this yourselves, then I feel really confident that that advice will give you somewhere to start and somewhere to improve from. Backlinks are an inescapable element of SEO nowadays. They've become increasingly important, and for those of you who already run successfully ranking blogs or websites, you'll be used to the idea of link exchanges and backlink gathering in order to bring authority to your website. First of all, I'm going to touch on the concept of link juice here, just for anyone who hasn't had it explained to them before. Link juice is a chatty term used to explain the way in which backlinks support one another in the eyes of search engines. Picture your website as a jug of juice. The juice represents your domain authority. The higher your domain authority, the more juice you have in your jug. For every link you make out to another website, you're giving away a few drops of your link juice. For every inbound link or backlink you collect from other websites, you're topping up your link juice. The added bonus here from search engines is that they provide a greater domain authority to organizations with many relevant and highly ranked backlinks. So even though a link exchange might give away some of your link juice and get the same juice in return, ultimately your website's domain authority gets a boost too. The thing to stress here with backlinks is that the relevance and the authority of the sites which provide backlinks to your site matter. Search engines will actually remove authority from a website and decrease that domain authority score if it is transparently attempted to game the system with hundreds of illegitimate backlinks to your own site. When you're pursuing backlinks, look for relevant websites with a domain authority that's similar or higher than your own. And finally, mobile. A large and public focus for search engines, and particularly for Google in recent years, has been the shift to mobile first. In 2022, it was loudly announced that Google was going to begin indexing on a mobile first basis. So it was going to look at the mobile site before it looked at the what would be a traditional desktop site. In this section, I'm going to talk a bit about the importance of mobile for search engine optimization, and also provide some color from the websites which I've managed during that time. The first thing to say is that mobile probably matters more than you think it does. Search engines will actually take the site speed score for mobile before they will take the desktop one. So, when you're doing your technical audits or when you're doing your spot checks, you're going to want to also do that check on a mobile device, probably not connected to the Wi-Fi at the same time. In the example we discussed earlier, if your mobile speed is poor, then it's as bad or worse than your desktop speed being poor. And that's particularly perhaps different or interesting to B2B organizations like the ones we deal with, where maybe a high percentage of your user base is actually coming in via desktop. You can use free tools by Google to check your mobile site speed, and we're going to link them below in the description. They're also linked in the e-guide that I've mentioned a couple of times now. What you can use those tools for, and specifically if you're looking at a kind of a Google first search engine approach, you can actually use the Google tools to make sure that that particular platform is happy with your mobile speed, and that's something that we would recommend that you do. It also looks at all the same user experience metrics, the other metrics that we discussed for mobile as well. So, that can be particularly interesting if you're a very low portion of your user base coming in via mobile. You're going to really want to make sure that those users are happy, because a couple of kind of poor performances could impact the overall user base. The other thing that I would say here is that bear in mind the sites that you're competing with. So the more niche B2B, I've seen it particularly in financial services areas, where, you know, a number of the other websites that you're competing with are not getting a high amount of mobile traffic either. What that means is that, you know, you don't have to compete with, for example, a Facebook's mobile performance, you know, where they're just doing everything in a totally specifically built mobile app. You've got to be high performing in the context of the sites that you're competing with. So understand, you know, where your competition sits for mobile performance, not in terms of the metrics, but just in terms of the quality of site that you can see there, and make sure that you are at a bare minimum as higher quality, and ideally, you know, outperforming that competition in the context of what we've just discussed. So in closing, I'm going to wrap things up by reminding you to think about, first of all, tracking and reporting on your domain authority over the year. You know, the changes that you're going to make based off of these simple tips. Understand the impact that that has on domain authority periodically, whether that's monthly or perhaps quarterly, since it's a metric that, you know, shifts slightly slower. Understand quality, not quantity, when it comes to both content and to backlinks. Remember to support mobile, but not at the expense of site speed or speed of action in the site. So contextualize your mobile performance amongst the competition and then prioritize it appropriately. You must consider site speed on mobile as a high priority. Finally, build a site that answers the questions that your prospects are asking and is easy to use. All the search engines want to give users the best experience possible in answering their question that brings them back to the search engine. The same is true for your website. So make sure that you're doing the job that you need to do for your prospects. I think that if you do those things, not only are you going to have a better chance to rank highly, but you're also going to create a website which people want to visit and want to do business with. Thanks so much for watching our webinar today. I'd like to remind you one last time that we have the e-guide with a hard copy of a lot of this information available in the description. Once again, my name's Tom. I work at Incisive Edge, and we're an agency that specialise in growth for startup and scale-up businesses in the B2B space. So thanks again, and I'd invite you to take a look at our website, some of the other resources that we have available. Cheers.